and welcome to the Andrew Eborn Show. Ream is an Irish-English pop, rock and dance group formed in 1992. Hits include You Are the Best Thing and the #1 smash, Things Can Only Get Better. And did they? Well, they sort of did for the Labour Party, who adopted it as their theme for the 1997 UK general election. They managed to sweep away 2 decades of Conservative rule, bring in new Labour on a wave of cool Britannia and optimism. Well, the band had 8 more top 40 hits from 3 albums, 2 of which reached the UK top 5. I'm delighted that 90s chart toppers Ream are back with a vengeance with a fantastic new album. Open Hearts, Open Minds, written and played, produced, much of it actually during lockdown. It's an album of hope and optimism, and boy, do we need those in these times. I'm delighted to welcome from Ream the wonderful Alan MACKENZIE. How are you doing, Alan?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's wonderful. And what's wonderful about this is I've got you by yourself, because normally you have another one and you don't get a word in edgewise. That
is true. Peter does like the sound of his own voice. To be fair, he tells a good story generally, but he's gone on holiday this week. So
that's what happens when you get a new album out. That's what you're going to do. You avoid the media junket, don't you? And make sure you work on that sort of basis. Now, I want to take you back because you started out DJing at various warehouse parties around London in the late 80s. Your big break came after running several successful parties at that notorious club, 11 Wardour Street, the Brain Club. And I think that's where you first met Pete. Tell me about that.
It is where I met Pete. It's I was DJing there. I used to run a night there back in 1990. Pete had come over from Ireland and was looking for someone to help him with dance music. Really, I'd never done any whatsoever. So it just seemed like something to do. Basically, I was a lot younger then. Obviously, I was around about 22. And I just said, yeah, let's go in here and let's just see what happens. And he had a track called You're the Best Thing, which obviously a lot of people will know, which was its embryonic stage. And I literally just told him to put some beats on there, as DJs do, really chuck some beats on there. And he just looked like he was mental. And I was trying to explain to him about the dance floor and for DJs and stuff. And he just got it. And then that was our first track we ever did. First thing I ever did in the studio was obviously You're the Best Thing. And then it just went from strength to strength, really. So, and things wasn't that long afterwards, really. So it was quite an exciting adventure.
Exciting adventure, certainly it was. I mean, Pete obviously had the band experience. I mean, he was almost signed to U2's label, wasn't he? What happened there?
Well, I'm not sure I can tell you the full story because it does get a little bit. I mean, he's told me the story, and it's quite a strange one. But yeah, they came over from Ireland on YouTube, and it looked like things are going to happen. We're going on tour with, I don't remember, Rochford back from.
Of course, then. I remember Rochford. A lovely guy, absolutely.
And something happened. Let's just leave it like that.
Well, give us a hint. What's something? You can't leave it like that. This is the show where we get to the truth of these matters. Give me a hint. What do you mean something happened?
Kill me if I said anything. Well, let's say someone crossed a line that needn't be crossed, and they got dropped, basically. So it was all a bit unfortunate.
So there was a falling out involving Rochford.
Standing, let's say. I think we just leave it like that.
Okay. Is today the day to clear up that misunderstanding?
I'm going to leave that Pete for one day because I think, as I say, it's not for me to say.
Okay, well, we'll get Pete on the show, and I'm sure, and I will tell him, Al said, get you on the show to clear up that misunderstanding, and this will be good. This will be like your Jerry Springer moment where we can bring it all back and make it all happen. But if there hadn't been that falling out, he could have gone a different way. Instead, Ream was born. He had his band experience. You had your club experience. Tell me about the name, because so many different rumours circulate about how the name came up, about strippers, about all sorts of wonderful things. What's the truth?
Well, Pete and I both disagree on this, funny enough. Well, it was a long time ago, but because I used to run the clubs, we were doing a gig at one of my nights, and we had a few others to do, and we didn't have a name. So it was, we'd just been made some music. It's like, oh, we need to get a name. And my recollection is, there's I don't think, again, an old 80s tune called Life in a Northern Town by the Dream Academy.
Absolutely.
And I thought, that's all dreamy, that's the sort of sound we were going for. And I thought, well, that would be Dream. There must be a band called Dream. Ooh, something's going on here. Must be a band called Dream. And hello?
Oh, I can hear you. I can still hear you. Are the hamsters still turning in Suffolk?
So I thought there must be a band called Dream. So maybe we'll just put a call on in there. Now, Pete's got a thing about, he seems to recall the Dream Boys, the strip act, and wanted to do something with the about the Dream Boys. Why, I don't know, because we couldn't be any further away from the Dream Boys if we tried. You know, neither of us, especially at the time, was particularly muscly, and we certainly didn't like oiling ourselves up. Well, not often, anyway. And so yeah, we just thought, because the bands like DK Class, M People, The Influence, stuff like that, so we thought, oh yeah, D-Ream, we'll do that. And it just sort of stuck. Unfortunately, the internet, you know, and the whole thing, you know, I can't remember what it's called now.
The colon. You've broken the internet as a result of using a colon in your name.
And of course, it made, when it all sort of came to the fore, it was an absolute nightmare, because every time we did a search, it just came up Ream, and it used to take, and also, I should have known better, because I used to have a magazine called G-Spot, which I did with a friend, which he would end up taking on further. And he was really into the whole internet thing. So I should have known, because it was a thing, you know, it was a thing. I just, you know, I never paid any interest in it whatsoever. And it just, how we did it, I don't know. So it's stuck, and it's a name that people remember. And I suppose, like many band names, like Duran Duran, et cetera, you know, those sort of weird names sort of stick.
Oh, no, people love the colon, as you say. It messed it up on the internet. Even your own website can't use it. You have to use a hyphen, don't you, to work on that sort of thing. What I also love, that I was listening to Pete and immersed myself in all the interviews you've been doing on Zoom and promoting the album. And he told us this lovely story about this tribute act. When he rose to fame, first of all, so one of his mates from school phoned him up and said, we formed a D-Ream tribute act, and we're going to call it D-Redful. And they had the wonderful song called Fish Can Only Get Battered, which I thought, come on.
Brilliant. I thought it was brilliant when I found that out. Pete wasn't too keen at first, but I think it's an old friend of his from school. And I don't think he talked to him for a while after, but now they're good mates again. He sees the funny side. I thought it was absolutely hilarious from day one, but then I'm quite happy to have people taking a mickey.
Oh, no, I love it. The pun is mightier than the sword, is what they say. It's always a thrill. Now, the other thing about your live band, you used to have the now renowned cosmologist and television presenter, Brian Cox, in the early years on keyboard. How did that come about?
He was a driver initially.
It was his summer job, he said. That's right.
It was a summer job, yeah. I mean, I used to drive us around a bit. When I did the gigs, I didn't always do them because I was DJing here and everywhere. And I wasn't much into the musical side of it. Well, I couldn't play basically. So as I used to drive, so that Pete got him involved for a summer job, but he was hopeless, absolutely hopeless at driving. So I'm getting lost and everything. So, and in fact, he was going to get rid of him, but he found out that he could play keyboard. So Pete got him involved. And it was mainly for doing those live shows like on TV and stuff. He'd come in, and he was definitely better than Pete and I. Well, certainly better than me anyway. And yeah, so that was it, and that's kind of what happened, you know. So he was on tour, and Pete and him became really good friends. So that's all there is to it, really.
Are you still in touch?
Yes, and Pete's much more matey with him, you know. So he keeps touch more with him, but I do, you know. But he's always on the phone if I need to. I need to speak to him. I don't often have many scientific problems I need sorting out, but. Yeah, you know, we're still friends, and he does always a few favours. So at some stage, he will be coming on stage with us, whether he likes it or not.
Oh, no, I love that. I'm going to come along. When the live shows came back, and I was at the Palladium last night, which was fantastic, seeing Steve Hackett doing reinventing that whole Genesis thing. But seeing live shows coming back, you must have really missed those moments, haven't you?
Absolutely. It's been hard for, I think, for all musicians, hasn't it? But this period, you know, it's bad enough sales aren't great with all the streaming thing and everything going on, but having no work essentially has been quite difficult, and that's part of what we do. You know, you make music and we do it for ourselves ultimately, but it's nice to see people enjoying it, and when you play it and people are there lapping it up. I mean, we did a gig last weekend. It's the first one we've done in nearly 2 years, and there's about 5,000 people there. It was brilliant. It was really good.
It is really, really good. Now, they normally say that politics and music don't mix, and I mentioned at the top of the show, obviously, the Labour Party hijacked, some might say, your fantastic song. How did you feel about that?
By that time, it was about 96, 97, wasn't it? I'd left the band by then, but Peter was I think his manager was, the label were going to use it. The label were going to use it regardless. So I think Pete felt kind of, his manager said, look, you've got to support this, you know, it should help with you know, doing another album, etc., etc. So he took it on. I think he wishes he hadn't. I was quite happy at the time because I'm like many other people, especially then, was really quite desperate to get the party in power out, let's say, and so I was quite pleased about it ultimately, and you know, I thought it was quite a positive thing for the song. However, as you rightly say, politics and music don't mix, and you never know what's going to come at the end of it. So obviously, at the end of Mr. Blair's Ream, it wasn't the greatest, and so the song then gets, you know, sort of linked with that, which wasn't very positive. So it's a shame, really, but you know, these things happen.
But you're not the only band to do that. I mean, Donald Trump famously, which I love, you can't always get what you want. And so when he won the election and that blasted out, extraordinary moments. I know the Stones were not too happy themselves.
No, well, let's face it, he's a divisive character anyway, so there's a good chance they're not going to be happy about it. And that again is a problem with all these politicians. Most of them are quite divisive. And it's a difficult one. I think from now on, fun enough, we were asked years later by our representative of the Conservative Party if they could use the song. We said no, because I can only imagine what they're going to use it for. But yeah, we won't be doing that again.
Well, then that's probably why Theresa May picked Dancing Queen instead, because who can forget those glorious moments as she moved her stuff?
Yeah, I'd like to try.
Well, it saves sort of running through those cornfields, I guess, making those crop circles.
Terrible images in my head.
Well, I'll tell you what, success, I mean, it came your way. You didn't really like it that much, though, did you?
I just think the whole pop stardom thing is, if certain people, I was a DJ, and I'm quite happy standing behind some decks, playing to X amount of people, and just being, you know, on my own and not, you know, having all that. That's like, it's for a certain type. I couldn't really hack it, really. It's just constant demands of record labels, all this thing with going out signing autographs for fans and all this stuff. You know, I know it's nice to the fans and everything, but I just find it all very strange. You know, I hadn't come from that sort of scene anyway, so it was difficult. I'm more used to it now. I still don't, the fame thing I don't like per se, but things like signing autographs and stuff, I can manage that, and I can do that now. It's not so difficult.
Do you remember signing your first one, Al?
I don't, but I can remember being followed by a magazine somewhere. We were doing a gig, and there was kids waiting outside for us with big banners and stuff, and like, you've got to go out and sign that, and that was early on, and I found it really awkward, and I think that's just sort of put me off a bit, and it was all a bit intrusive as well, like having magazines following you everywhere and doing, you know, back then as well, I had quite, let's say, a heady life.
Yes. Well, it is difficult being in the spotlight because coming from the club life, if you like, you were thrust into the squeaky clean, or what should have been squeaky clean world of children's television. You went on tour with Take That. How was that?
Well, this is the thing. This is when I left the band because that's the sort of stuff I couldn't do. I'd met Take That before with the Top the Pops and stuff like that. This just wasn't my scene. So and I think Pete, in hindsight, wishes he hadn't done it. As much as he enjoyed it, and because of that, we got the #1 single. There's no doubt about it. But we had a sort of certain cool at the time. It wasn't really cool, but it was a certain cool. And we'd gone on with what we were doing. You know, who knows where we would have gone. And I would have stayed in the band as well, which I think Pete wishes would have happened. But doing that sort of thing, which is, you know, traveling around the world and doing a pop thing, that's not for me.
And you're actually very different characters. You are the yin and yang, if you like, aren't you? The way that you do it. We talk about, well, every time I hear the interview, it is mainly Pete who speaks, which is why I say it is a delight to hear what you have to say. The split inevitably came because it was going to happen. He wanted that at that time. It was right for him to do the pop stardom. You could have been, as a band, it would have been very interesting talking about Sliding Doors. You would have been a more serious band, I guess. It wouldn't have gone down that particular route, which would have played into your what you prefer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I think what Pete preferred, really, but he had the management and he had commitments at the record label telling him, you know, we want this. And, you know, when you look at the numbers, they were right, obviously. But Pete, I think Pete, in hindsight, he would have rather, because Pete's a serious musician. People sometimes forget that. He's a really talented musician, Pete. And I think he would that would have suited them more, just getting down. But you know, the commitments of being in a band, you know, and signed to a big label that are doing well, so that's it. You have to travel around the world, and you don't get much music done.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the problem, because whenever you've had a hit, and a lot of the artists I speak to, they always say, you have a #1 hit, it's actually the worst thing that could happen to you, because all the pressure is then on to do the next one, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can't. It's if people could write things, well, for example, things that we've had to part 2, you do it straight like that, but you can't. And that's the thing. These are moments in life sometimes that, you know, one-offs, especially even for some of the biggest bands, you only have the couple of massive hits. You can't keep repeating that formula. So you want to move on and hopefully have a fan base that follows you with what you're doing. I think, especially the second album, he was sort of had rushed into it, let's say, because he was touring. Then it's like, we need an album, so bosh, he had to put an album out. I know, because there's loads of sax on it that we left on the cutting room floor, let us say, from the first one.
So what did you do? I mean, so you had the split. I mean, very bitter times, I imagine, quite difficult. You're torn between that sort of stuff. What did you do yourself during the split?
Well, I was DJing all over the world, really. So I was doing that. I made a few records, and then over time, you end up buying a nightclub and stuff like that. And just, I would never suggest that to anyone. Don't get involved in buying nightclubs and stuff.
It's an expensive business, isn't it? And again, you can't have a social life.
Especially when it all goes wrong. But yeah, I just did that and did my own thing, and then I've got my own record label now and stuff like that. I even became a quantity surveyor a few years ago. So, you know, because I just do something really.
A quantity surveyor. My brother's a chartered surveyor, married to a quantity surveyor, so it's a useful profession to have. I'm sure when I see him in his next sort of pop band, that'll be brilliant as well. But the reunion, it did happen, but under rather strange circumstances. How did it happen?
Well, yeah, I'd been out partying really for all night, really, with some friends in London, and I'd seen Peter in 20 odd years. And it was in the morning, because I had to get back to Birmingham. We were out just chilling out in this park, as you do, lots of young teenagers. Don't ask. And then next thing, there's this guy there with his wife, and they're arguing in the park. We look at it and think, he's arguing. And then he came back about an hour later, and he just shouted at me, "You Al McKenzie, the DJ Al McKenzie." I remember thinking, "You strange thing saying, you the DJ Al McKenzie." I looked at it, I thought, my word, it's Peter. I hadn't seen him. Our lawyers wouldn't have got back in the room, but just because we're there, so look, will we go in the studio and try and do something? So we did, and we made, you know, ended up making an album then, and we've been together since, just on and off. You know, we've never treated it, you know, like we've got to do this. It's got to be the band, because, well, as you know, for one, you've got to have a living. Both got kids and stuff. You need to provide for them. And music, unless you're right up there, does not make the money that some people may think it does. So, and even with gigs, we don't really want to get involved just in those club PA type things and things. We'd rather just do gigs that suit us, basically. So, yeah. So we've not been able to, like, you know, we should have been a lot more productive, let us say, in our time. You know, in 10 years we've managed 2 albums. It's not the best return really, but you know, maybe this time we'll start churning them out a bit more, a bit quicker.
Well, what was interesting, because when you got back in 2012, you were sort of the antithesis of the pop thing, because you became a bit too muso, didn't you? Really?
Yeah, we did. We used a lot of the influence I had from the club scene and Pete's guitars. We got them, and we got some of the songs were 10 minutes long and stuff. It just, I mean, I love the album. Don't get me wrong, I really love the album, but as a pop album, I think maybe we should have, and that's what we've done with this one. We've learnt from that, and we've kept it quite succinct. It's short, it's sweet. The song, you know, the last one had a lot of old songs and stuff as well, but we've made it more listenable, not massive instrumental breaks everywhere, which I think is, I love that last album, but then we needed that to get ourselves back into the swing.
It was the antidote to all the pop pressure. You take that moment, your kids' TV, you had to do that sort of complex muso thing, and you've got it now as part of your wonderful volume of work. The new album, Open Hearts, Open Minds, produced in lockdown. You're really going back to basics there, aren't you? You're going back to the Ream that we all know and love from the 90s.
I think so. We had a chat about it, and it's as much what we've moved on musically from then, and you know, the technology's moved on as well. Everything and our songwriting and production's got better. We did chat after last time and say, look, we've got to connect with our fan base if we can, but still be true to ourselves, obviously. But get back to those pianos or strings, and there's a feel 90s sound there, but it's more updated. It doesn't sound like it's a 90s album, but it's yeah, we've gone right back there. We had a body of work. We had quite a lot of songs to choose from. You know, Pete's a prolific writer,
Yeah.
and I get involved. I have a few ideas myself, but I tend to get involved when he starts writing things, and I like things. So I just get listening. Nope, no, and that's how it works. I'm quite happy to tell people if think something's rubbish, put it that way. But he constantly writing. So we had quite a lot of stuff to choose from, and there's some songs on that we didn't use, which are actually, I would say, more sort of hit worthy, let's say, but with the whole album, I wanted this album to sound something. I wanted it to sound complete. So you put one track on, listen all the way through, and that's how it works.
And that's brilliant. And that sort of stuff. As I say, I was with Steve Hackett last night, and that's what they do. These albums just go on forever, but it feels as though it's all a united whole. What I also love about it as well, though, Al, is that it's got messages in there. So things like Meet Me at Midnight, about putting down your screens, make love cool again, all those sort of wonderful things. But also anti-bullying, which you cover in the thing, Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down. And I know that's a word you were toying about whether you should change that to haters or whatever, but actually it's a phrase that resonates with people. And having a real message about bullying and how people can get comfort, if you like, from sharing that experience from a well-known artist, it's quite powerful to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're right. We did question it because, I mean, Pastor Peter always says as well, he was adopted. So essentially he is, a bastard. That's the thing. So he doesn't find the word offensive, and that is the phrase as well. So when you change the phrase, you sort of you soften the message almost. So you've got to use the phrase, and it's still quite a happy up tune, but it is, that message is there. And I think it's not been shoved in your face completely. And again, with the album, we don't shove our opinions. We've gone away from politics stuff in there. It's about hope and just about personal stuff. So that songs particularly, that's what that's about. And I think it's good for people to realise that, life can be rubbish sometimes, but you just got to, just get on with it. Do your best, and hope there's people around there, that support you.
No, I think, and the more that people talk about it, the more we can address it as an issue. Because, I mean, as you say, poor old Pete had a rotten upbringing, actually. He was adopted at a very early age. He found out, actually, his music genes all came from his natural parents. He found that out much later, didn't he? But he went to school. I remember he was talking about the Jesuit priests used to, basically beat them up every time, didn't they?
By all counts, yes. I mean, I was brought up a Catholic. We didn't get that bad, but yeah, I won't get into religion either.
And your relationship with Pete now, I mean, obviously you had that hiatus, so is it bigger and better? You've got more trust in each other now?
We're really good friends, yeah. I mean, there is a massive trust thing going on now, because Pete he trusts me to write and sit there on my own and do, if he goes to bed and I'll sit in the studio, he's quite trust me just to, I'll program and do whatever, do speech stuff, whatnot. He's happy. We sing together. I've sung on the album as well. And we write together. So it's a much better relationship. We are older and more mature now. That's the thing. So, and we do get on really well. So, as you say, there's a bit of the yin and yang thing going on there. But Pete needs someone to tell him sometimes.
Oh, it sounds good. Well, we will get Pete on the show again as well. We'll find out what actually happened for that moment. I'll tell him you sent me, which will be good on that basis. But just to finish with that, I mean, what has been in your career, what has been your proudest moment?
I mean, it's difficult. I love the fact that we've been around this long and we now probably made our best album. And I think that's just amazing. It's on our terms, obviously. I'm sure it won't be number one and all that like the other. Well, it weren't number one, but top 5 like the other ones for. But I'm proud that we've done that. You can say things being number one, which is an amazing achievement. Not everyone gets that in their life. But I just think the fact that we've stuck around, we've stuck to our guns, and we've made probably our best album to date. So to date, and I'm saying to date because you never know, we might do another one.
I sincerely hope they would. And starting out then in this career, what advice would you give the young you?
Then that's a great question. I was lucky when we started. We were lucky. The scene was right. There was more money in the industry and stuff, so it was. Yeah, it was easier then. I won't say easier. It's obviously all different, but it just was. Yeah, probably not leave the band and swallow my pride a bit and just just stay there. And we might have, had a longer sort of successful career instead of. I tend to always go with my gut instinct all the time and say, I'm just, you know, do it regardless and to hell with everyone and sort of thing. And to, you know, I don't care about my career, but sometimes maybe I should just take time just to think a little bit.
Think a little bit is always good advice. And finally then, how would you like to be remembered?
Quite frankly, I'm not bothered. I think I'm a nice enough guy and stuff, but I'm not, I've got no urge to be someone to sit there and say, oh, look, they were a great band, they were this and that and whatever. You know, as long as my kids love me and, you know, and think I was a good dad, then that's fine by me.
Well, we're going to play out, Al, with the single, the brilliant single, I Used to Believe in Love. I'll let you introduce it.
This is the new Ream single from the new album Open Hearts, Open Minds. It's called I Used to Believe in Love.
I used to believe in love, now I believe in you. All of my dreams are gone, you made my dreams come true. I used to believe in love a lot, but now I see the truth that you're a part of me. I used to believe in love, now I believe in you. So much younger, I was so naive. I had this notion about love, I really, really did believe. And now that I've gotten older, life's gotten hold on me. I only saw the bad in everyone. I found the truth so hard to see, and you bring